This week in Ottawa Business Journal's Behind the Headlines, the pandemic heats up the Valley's residential real estate market. An Ottawa startup wants to create the Airbnb of self-storage, and an iconic local CEO gets a Lifetime Achievement Award. All this and more coming up right now. Hello and welcome to Behind the Headlines for the week ending October 23rd, 2020. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. Behind the Headlines is a regular podcast from OBJ to explore the most read business stories of the week. Right now, I'd like to welcome two of my colleagues, Peter Cavesi and David Sally. Welcome to you both. Listen, we're going to start off with story number one. Quite interesting. We've talked a lot on this podcast about the strength of the local, meaning the urban residential real estate market, and in fact, it looks like the Valley, meaning the Ottawa Valley's residential real estate market, is heating up. Peter, why don't you start off and tell us what's happening in Renfrew and other communities?
Well, to look at this story, we spoke to several residential real estate agents, veteran agents with decades of experience. And in short, what they're seeing is something that's totally unprecedented in their career. And it's really comes down to unprecedented demand, sky high demand for homes, and a limited supply of homes for sale. There's so many anecdotes that just can leave you scratching your head. One of my favorite from our story was an agent who took her client in to look at a property. It was listed at just under $400,000. They put in an offer at $450,000, and were one of 12 competing bidders. They lost, and the house ended up going for $500,000, so $100,000 over asking. And even the agent was sort of left scratching her head, saying, it was a nice home, but it was a bungalow with no basement, so it wasn't, that desirable. But there's just so many. So again, we're seeing huge price appreciation. And it's a real shift in the makeup of buyers. What a lot of the agents that we spoke to said that they're seeing are these new buyers coming in from Ottawa, Toronto, with cash in hand, willing to make unconditional offers.
Dave, I want to bring you into this conversation. So I suspect, like many things happening in the pandemic, there are some trends at play here that are making kind of that Ottawa Valley real estate market heat up. Why don't you tell us about that a bit?
Well, exactly, Mike. As you say, this is partly driven by the pandemic. The fact that, as we've been talking about week after week, the whole remote work first mentality, that shift to digital by default, if you want to call it that, and away from everybody being at the office. Well, that's playing into this big time, because now, you know what? You can have a job in Toronto or Montreal, wherever, and work in Renfrew. I mean, and have your Zoom meetings and just live and have a great quality of life for a lower price. You get so much more real estate bang for your buck in the Valley. So more and more people are doing exactly that. We've had real estate agents in this story talk about how they're seeing more and more buyers from not just Ottawa, but places like Toronto selling their homes in hip downtown Toronto neighborhoods, to move to Renfrew County, because they can sell their place in Toronto and buy a place immediately in the Valley and have a couple $100,000 or whatever left in their pocket. I mean, that's a pretty attractive value proposition, not having to worry about being near the office anymore. And, a lot of real estate agents say there's a great quality of life out in the Valley. The attraction out there, you're not in a congested urban area. It's easy to get around. You've got access to ski hills, lakes, golf courses, you name it. High-speed internet is getting better all the time out there with improved infrastructure. So, there's just agents are just saying that there's a whole host of reasons why people are packing up, moving out to the Valley, and they don't really see an end to this trend anytime soon, and they just think the market is going to keep booming.
Yeah. I don't want to overstate this, but this could be a watershed moment for a lot of rural communities because of what we said, right? There's two factors there. There's a lifestyle decision being made, and there's a money decision being made, because if you're living in the city and your property is at a peak valuation, and you can sell it, put cash in your jeans, as they say, 100,000, 200,000 would be somewhat realistic, and then move out to Renfrew County or Prescott or something like that. That's very realistic. I think it's a big underlying change we're going to see here. Listen. Let's go to story number 2. Really kind of neat story about an Ottawa startup that says it wants to become the Airbnb of self-storage. So, Peter, I think you're going to tell us what that means.
Well, first of all, this is a startup, and I think the first goal is to that they're looking to do is steal a little bit of market share away from the traditional self-storage industry. So this is a startup started by a young Ottawa real estate investor by the name of Daniel Disciplios, who noticed that in some of his properties there was some underutilized space, and he thought, well, this is a missed opportunity. So he launched a platform that's not dissimilar to be it Uber or Lyft or Airbnb, where a property owner with some surplus storage space can put up a listing, set a price, and have people with extra stuff that needs to be stashed away use that space. So what he's particularly seeing is people needing to store seasonal items, winter tires, holiday decorations, as well as those sentimental items that a lot of people can't bear to throw out. What I found particularly interesting about this story, though, is just how it's an example of how that sharing economy is continuing to evolve, particularly here in Ottawa. So again, of course, we've all heard of those international stories of Lyft, of Uber, of Airbnb, but here in Ottawa, we have companies like Rockify, which is the online marketplace where you can rent just about anything to people in your community, as well as, of course, RV Easy, which is a peer-to-peer rental platform specifically for recreational vehicles that's gaining more and more attention as each month goes on.
It's a good point. Ottawa does have its share of sharing economy companies. So, Dave, I hear there's a unique twist. I don't know what it is, but I hear there's a unique twist to this story. Tell me about Disciplios' exit strategy.
Yes, Mike. We all have read and reported on dozens or hundreds of stories about startups, about entrepreneurs who decide to exit, at some point. And generally speaking, I mean, when they do it, it's to help fund another venture. They want to start a new business. They built that one up to a point where they don't think they can take it any further, or just want to do something different. But generally, they take that cash pocket either, and if they're of a certain age, maybe they retire and hit the golf course. But typically they often reinvest it into another business. Well, Disciplios, he's got a bit of a different idea. His first passion, he says, is actually helping the people of Guatemala gain access to clean drinking water.
Wow.
He went, it's pretty amazing. You don't hear this every day. I mean, he went to Guatemala in 2018 as a university student to take part in one of those case competitions that you might have heard about in undergraduate business programs. And it happened to be in Guatemala. He says he went down there and he just fell in love with the people and the culture. And he said the reason really why he started this venture is because he wanted to be able to give back to the people of Guatemala, help fund water projects in Latin America. And now that's a motivation you don't hear about every day, he's just got to be commended even more for that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's a very noble goal. You don't hear that all the time. Sometimes there's a little bit of a CSR strategy in companies, but I don't think I've heard that one before. Dave, we're going to stick with you for the third and final story of the podcast, which is a big award that's handed out on an annual basis by OBJ and the Board of Trade. This happens to be the 10th time the award's been handed out. So little bit of a neat milestone there. And it's a big recognition of someone who built Ottawa's first billion-dollar software company. Tell us a little bit more about that, Dave.
Well, Mike, the this year's recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award is well, he's as deserving as anyone in the city. It's Rob Ashe. Of course, many people will know Rob for his years at Cognos. He started off at the company in 1984 after graduating from U Ottawa Commerce, and just he joined this young software business intelligence software company, and he kind of grew along with it. He held just about every major executive position until he actually made it to the big chair as CEO in 2004, succeeding as his mentor Ron Zampanini, who he really wanted to single out, actually, when he received word that he was the recipient. But yeah, he really Rob Ashe is one of those kind of low-key guys now. I mean, he stayed on after Cognos got acquired by IBM in 2008. He stayed on for a few more years as a general manager with IBM in analytics. And then he decided to step aside and devote his time to really mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs. And he's done an exemplary job of that in Ottawa. He's a director at Shopify, has been for 5 years. He's kind of their lead director. They really look to him and lean on him for a lot of advice and direction. And but the Shopify is far from the only company. I mean, he's advised dozens of other young up and coming entrepreneurs, and just he's become a real pillar of the tech and wider business community. Of course, the Ashe name has its mark all over the business community. Rob's brother Bernie, many of you will know, had a long career as a CEO for a number of companies, including most recently the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group. He helped get that group off the ground, get the Red Blacks going. So it's just a real well-regarded family, and especially for Rob, I mean, I think an honor that just has been has really been embraced across the city. Everybody, I mean, Mike, you've talked to a lot of people about this, whether it's Ian Sherman, the chair of the Board of Trade, or Jim Durrell, former mayor. And I mean, these guys all just rave about Rob Ashe and what he's contributed to Ottawa on a whole bunch of fronts.
I always think it's interesting when someone who's somewhat low key, not saying that the Rob Ashe, wasn't in the spotlight when he was a CEO of Cognos, but he has kind of very intentionally, I think, been a little bit lower key. Not too many people, I think, know that he's been a lead director, as you indicated, at Shopify. And I don't want to overstate this, but I'm told that people like Toby Lutke, the CEO of Shopify, has gone to Rob on occasion because Rob has that track record of building right here in this city a billion-dollar software company. So listen, we're going to start wrapping up, but before we do that, I'm going to do the coming up next. Peter typically does that one. But on Tuesday, talking about getting back to a new normal, we're bringing back the Mayor's Breakfast. I guess we're bringing it back with Jim Watson, just to be clear. Jim needs to be part of it. So we are going to only to shoot. We're going to be live at Ottawa City Hall and City Council Chamber. And we've got a great first guest, very relevant guest. We have Federal Infrastructure Minister Catherine McKenna, who is going to be a focal point of any economic recovery brought by the Liberal government. Of course, you can bet your bottom dollar that infrastructure spending is going to factor into this pandemic economic recovery. So anyway, she'll be coming up. There'll be a live broadcast Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. You can log in or visit Ottawa Business Journal for some more information. But the best way I should point out of doing this is go to ottawabot.ca. That's Ottawa Board of Trade, ottawabot.ca. Go to the event section, register there, and we'll send you all the links to watch it online. You can also watch it, by the way, on Rogers Community 22 Live. That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Peter, for helping us explore the big headlines of the week. I want to remind everyone that you can watch or listen to this podcast in a variety of ways. If you want to watch it, what you do is you go to OBJ's YouTube channel, and you can check it out there, both as a premiere video and video on demand. You can also listen to it on popular podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, and Twitch. And a reminder that if you're a diehard and you really want to watch local news headlines, what you do is you go to obj.ca regularly throughout the week. And if you don't want to miss any of those news, what you really should do is sign up for OBJ Today email newsletter that's sent every weekday in the late afternoon, early evening. And to do that, again, go to obj.ca/newsletter/sign up, or just go to obj.ca and look for a sign up link. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Michael Curran signing off on behalf of my colleagues, David Sally and Peter Cavesi. For this week in Behind the Headlines. We hope to see you soon. Please stay connected. Cheers.